The following program, The Russ Belville Show, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate to the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate any illegal activity and encourage all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers on The Russ Belville Show are their own, and The Russ Belville Show cannot be held legally responsible for their validity or reliability. Viewer discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think that we need to rethink and decriminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Yeah, I hear you had a question for me.
Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
Good day, tokers and tokettes, and welcome to the show. It's Tuesday, November 19th, 2013, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Thanks for joining us here. We've got all sorts of great stuff to get to today, including a visit with a good friend of ours from all the way across the pond. We'll be speaking with Greg DeHote, a.k.a. Cannabis Cure UK. He's with Normal UK, which has just gotten some great press, both here in the States and across the pond in the UK. We'll talk to him all about that and the chances for further legalization in the United Kingdom. We've also had recent interviews with folks from Normal Ireland as well. We'll find out if they're in touch with each other and helping work things out across the islands there. So that's coming up at 1:30 with Greg DeHote. Please stick around for that. Also on today's show, at the end of the show, got time for a radical rant because once again, the subject of I-502 has come up, and there's been an op-ed piece by Steph Scherer, the head of Americans for Safe Access, with regard to protecting the medical marijuana program up in Washington State, which is all well and good. I'm all for that. But I got to poke a couple holes in some of the suppositions and assumptions in this op-ed, and I'm sorry if it's going to offend people or maybe have people hate me a little bit, but I just can't take BS anymore when it comes to our arguments for marijuana. We are so close to legalizing now, and we've legalized in Washington State. I feel there's really no need to have to color the argument any or to try to whitewash it any. So we'll talk about that at the end of the show in the Radical Rant. Also on today's show, we're going to go behind the headlines. I did some updates on my state marijuana laws map. I've posted it out on my Pinterest account if you want to check that out at pinterest.com/radicalruss. We're going to go over the map and kind of give you an overview of the good and bad places in the United States of America to be if you are a cannabis consumer. Also for today, it's Daily Toker Tunes. Electric Bob will be joining us for our Electric Tuesday tune. We got a song coming up here from Showtech featuring, who was it, DJ Stretch? I used to have a Stretch Armstrong. I don't know if that counts. But anyway, we'll get that at 20 after. But we'll start everything off with our 420 radio news headlines. We got headlines from Maryland, from New Mexico, from Arizona, Colorado, and the United Kingdom. It's all coming up on the Russ Belville Show.
It's simply business. It's simply business. It's simply business, you know why they won't let us grow. It's simply business.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
It's simply business. It's simply business. It's simply business, you know why they won't let us grow. simply business. It's simply business, you know why they won't let us grow. It's simply business.
The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. Please do not give up your precious liberties. There's nothing wrong with standing up for our constitutional rights, and in fact, it's the only way to honor the Constitution that recognizes our natural rights. Treat law enforcement with respect and respect the Constitution by standing up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, stand up for your rights by repeating, "I respectfully invoke all my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak to my attorney, Omar Figueroa." Omar Figueroa has more than a decade of experience in federal and California courts and graduated from Yale University, Stanford Law School, and Trial Lawyers College. Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215 or on the web at www.omarfigueroa.com.
Cannabis Outreach Collective is an alternative health and wellness option located in Gladstone, Oregon, that serves patients in the Portland area and beyond. We are a full-service alternative health and wellness collective accommodating patients with natural, organic, holistic, and homeopathic remedies, nutritional guidance, advice, education, and medical cannabis, fully in accordance with Oregon OMMP law. You can find out more about Cannabis Outreach Collective on Facebook at COC503 or by emailing cannabisoutreachcollective503@gmail.com or by telephone at 503-853-1319. Check out our menu on Weed Maps and visit Cannabis Outreach Collective today. Now it's time for your 420 Radio News for Tuesday, November 19th, 2013. I'm Russ Belville. Maryland gubernatorial hopeful Heather Mazur to propose legalization of marijuana. From the Washington Post. Maryland Democratic gubernatorial hopeful Heather R. Mazur on Tuesday will propose legalizing marijuana and using the tax revenue it generates to fund pre-kindergarten education, according to an advance copy of her plan. Mazur proposes that Maryland regulate marijuana much like it does alcohol. She estimates that taxing the drug could yield up to $157.5 million in new revenue for the state every year. Adults age 21 and over would be permitted to possess up to an ounce of marijuana without violating state law. Smoking marijuana would not be allowed in public, and it would be illegal to drive under the influence. Missouri's two better-known Democratic opponents reacted cautiously to word of her plan. A Goucher poll released this month found that 51% of Marylanders support making marijuana use legal in the state, while 40% oppose legalization. Under Missouri's plan for legalization, marijuana would be subject to an excise tax of $50 per ounce at the point of sale between cultivators and retailers. There would also be a 6% sales tax and a 2% excise tax at the point of sale. Medical marijuana in short supply from the Albuquerque Journal. Demand for medical marijuana under New Mexico's 5-year-old program has soared, but supply of the weed for debilitating conditions has been strained to the point that New Mexico producers have turned away thousands of patients in recent months and rationed the supply to others. New Mexico was the first state to have its State Department of Health license and regulate a nonprofit medical marijuana distribution delivery system, but the program is experiencing growing pains. The number of licensed producers has dropped from a high of 25 to 23, while the number of active patients certified to buy medical cannabis hit 10,289 as of October 31st, according to state officials, increasing by 1,200 from earlier this year. The number of medical conditions eligible for cannabis use has grown to 17, with PTSD and chronic pain accounting for the largest segments of users. Last week, a state medical marijuana advisory board recommended the addition of 3 new medical conditions to the list, including Parkinson's disease and traumatic brain injury. Prosecutor wants suit over marijuana extracts dismissed, from Arizona StarNet. Maricopa County's chief prosecutor is asking a judge to throw out a bid by the parents of a 5-year-old Mesa boy who has seizures to be able to get an extract of marijuana from dispensaries. County Attorney Bill Montgomery is not disputing whether Xander Welton needs the drug. His parents have the proper recommendation from a doctor to sign him up as a patient under the Arizona Medical Marijuana Act. But Montgomery said Monday that those who crafted the statute legalized only marijuana, which means the plant. Any extracts fall under a separate part of the criminal code that was not altered by the voter-approved law. Montgomery said if Jacob and Jennifer Welton think the extract works better, they should take their case to the legislature, which can alter the law, albeit with a 3/4 vote of both the House and Senate and concurrence of the governor. The 2010 law clearly allows those with a doctor's recommendation to obtain marijuana, and it specifically permits the drug to be used in food products rather than being smoked. But the initiative never legalized cannabis, which is described as the extract of the plant. Colorado fire officials fear explosion of marijuana oil production from the Denver Post. When the white clapboard house in the tiny northern Colorado town of Carr went kaboom, the roof lifted off the top, the chimney fell over, windows blew out. 3 people went to the hospital. A boy injured in the explosion said 2 men in the house were attempting to make, quote, oil that you use to smoke weed, end quote, according to investigators. Fire officials across Colorado say they are concerned the state's new laws on marijuana will lead to more incidents. Hash oil is concentrated marijuana, more than 75% THC. Last month, the Colorado Information Analysis Center, part of the State Homeland Security Office, put out a bulletin warning officials about the dangers of hash oil explosions. The bulletin noted 2 cases, a February home explosion in Lakewood and a July incident in Colorado Springs. News reports show that there have been at least 5 more spanning several years, including the explosion in Carr and 1 each in Steamboat Springs and Breckenridge. 2 incidences have occurred in Fort Collins, including one in 2009 in which a man died from burns. And cannabis clubs are blossoming in the UK, a new report from the Guardian UK. We will talk more about that with Cannabis Cure UK, aka Greg DeHote from Normal UK at hour. This has been your 420 Radio News for Tuesday, November 19th, 2013. I'm Russ Belville. When we come back, we go behind the headlines to take a look at the state of marijuana laws in the United States in 2013, including DUID, possession, reciprocity, medical marijuana, legalization, and more. You're listening to The Russ Belville Show on 420radio.org. We'll be right back.
When you are starting up a medical cannabis business, you don't just want any attorney. You want a fired-up lawyer who understands the needs of cannabis consumers. The law office of Lauren Vasquez is your fired-up lawyer for the cannabis industry. Lauren Vasquez knows the details of California marijuana law from both a personal and professional angle. Lauren Vasquez rose from the ranks of college normal activists to become one of the Bay Area's best marijuana lawyers. Visit her website, fireduplawyer.com, or call 1-855-MMJ-LAWS for more information. That's 855-665-5297 for Lauren Vasquez, your fired-up lawyer, or email fireduplawyer@gmail.com. The number again is 855-MMJ-LAWS, 855-665-5297 for your fired-up lawyer, Lauren Vasquez. Lauren Vasquez is an activist attorney you can trust. Call today.
Let him bring in the beat.
Adam Hand of Handmade Apparel produces quality custom designs for t-shirts, hats, and other apparel. Handmade Apparel is the official design shop for 420 Radio, The Russ Belville Show, Ganja John, and Cascadia Concentrates, among many clients who rely on Adam Hand for everything from short-run custom projects to full-run clothing lines. Adam's meticulous designs are individually crafted and screened in vibrant, high-definition color. Visit handmadeapparel.biz to browse the selection of handmade gear or to get a personal quote for your own designs. Handmade Apparel, a proud supporter of 420radio.org.
bringing the beat.
We've got some great shows in our 5 p.m. Pacific primetime lineup here at 420radio.org, but if you missed them on the weekdays, you can catch them on the weekends, starting Saturday at 10 a.m. and Sunday very early at 4 a.m. Pacific time, beginning with Stony Sundays with Coral Reefer, followed by Weed Nerd with Subcool, Free Weed with Danny Danko, Jorge Cervantes TV, and ending up with The Jody Emery Show every weekend in our repeat blocks right here on 420radio.org. Welcome back, everybody. Quarter after, and time for us to go behind the headlines. And today I took some time to update my 2013 marijuana map. You can get this off of my Pinterest account. I have also posted it at the National Cannabis Coalition, Marijuana Laws in the United States of America for 2013. And the legend at the top will let you know that what we're covering will be the shading of individual states, and that's based on whether they are a legal state. Now, the legal states will be in dark green. That would be, of course, Washington and Colorado. And then the states that have both medical marijuana and decriminalization are the medium color green. That would be Oregon, California, Nevada, Alaska, Maine, Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island. And then the light green states are the ones that have medical only. They don't have decriminalization. Those would be Montana and Arizona and New Mexico and Illinois, Michigan, New Hampshire, New Jersey, and Delaware, and D.C. for that matter. Then we have states that are kind of a goldish green. These are states that only have decriminalization. That would be Nebraska, Minnesota, Ohio, Mississippi, North Carolina, New York. So there you go as far as just what the laws are. And then, of course, the rest of the states that are in all gray, the states that I haven't mentioned yet, those would be the states where the possession of marijuana is still a criminal act at any level. But that is as far as I've usually taken this map in the past. I thought it would be interesting today to add some more data to that map. So I included some exclamation points. You'll see that Idaho and Wyoming get these yellow exclamation points. And what those are telling you, those are states where you can be arrested and put in jail for a misdemeanor for merely being high in public. Merely public intoxication is enough for you to get busted in those states, Idaho and Wyoming, both misdemeanors. And in the states that have the red exclamation points, those are states where it is possible to get a felony for possession of an ounce or less. A felony for possession of an ounce or less. Now, it differs by state. In Arizona, it's a felony for any amount of marijuana, period. If you're not a medical patient, any amount of marijuana is a felony. Florida requires 21 grams before that becomes a felony. And those other states that I have the exclamation points in require that it's a second offense or a third offense, or like Nevada, a fourth offense is a felony. And up in like Wisconsin and Michigan, it's if you're within 1,000 feet of a school or a park, you can get a felony added to that. Then we have a listing of what the reciprocity, or I'm sorry, let's go with the home grow. The medical marijuana states may also have a little pot leaf inside them, and the pot leaf has a number next to it to tell you how many mature plants you are allowed to grow in that state as a medical card holder. And then if there's just one state, Colorado, with a white pot plant and the number 3 by it, telling you how many mature plants you can grow legally as a legalized state. And it's the only state where you're legally allowed to grow that many pot plants, unless you count in Alaska, where their constitution allows possession of up to 4 ounces and growing of up to 25 plants in their home under their privacy provisions. Finally, I've added some outlines to the map to show what are the states. Oh, excuse me, not finally. Let's not forget reciprocity. The green cross that you'll see in some medical marijuana states indicates a state that will accept out-of-state medical marijuana cards. However, they do not allow out-of-staters to go shop at their dispensaries. And then finally, the outlines you see are the states that have per se DUID laws to some level. The yellow outlines represent states with per se laws that require a certain amount of THC or THC metabolite. Orange states require a certain amount of THC, but metabolites don't count. And then the red outline states are the ones that are zero tolerance for THC or metabolites. And if they have an hour number in there, that's the mandatory minimum jail sentence for failing the P test. Don't get caught driving in those red states. Like I said, this map is available for anyone who would like to get a copy of it. You can just go to National Cannabis Coalition. The easy address is ncc420.com. Full-size map is available there, ncc420.com.
Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
I'm a reefer smoking man.
Wood Pipe Smoke Shop and Speakeasy is your source for cannabis community gear in southern Wisconsin. Owners Brian and Tammy Wood are located in Kendall, just outside of Madison, and they've got everything for the smoking enthusiast, including a full assortment of pipes, water pipes, hookahs, bubblers, one-hitters, and so much more. They're open noon to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday and can help you with your detoxification therapies as well. Call 608-466-7473 or email woodpipes@yahoo.com for more information. That's 608-466-7473 or email woodpipes@yahoo.com. And as always, go pack go.
Приветствую. Меня зовут Дани Данько. Я редактор журнала High Times. Отвечаю за отдел культивации, или, проще говоря, выращивания. Приглашаем вас в Амстердам с 24 по 28 ноября, чтобы посетить ежегодный турнир Cannabis Cup, уже 26-й по счету. Там мы сравним множество видов марихуаны и гашиша из местных кофешопов. Еще у нас там выставка товаров, семинары по выращиванию, ночные концерты и вручение премии за лучшие в мире сорта марихуаны. Хотите получить 10% скидку со стоимости билета? Используйте промокод DANYKO на сайте cannabiscup.com. Ждем вас!
NORMAL stands for Responsible Adult Cannabis Use. If cannabis use is causing problems in your life, consider taking a break or seeking medical assistance. Consider ceasing cannabis use if you have a family history of mental illness. Don't drive or operate heavy machinery while impaired by cannabis use. Cannabis use is not without risks, even though the risks are far less than those posed by legal drugs.
Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Electric Tuesday, featuring the latest in electronic dance music and other cutting-edge genres. You can get downloads and more information about all our Daily Toker Tunes by visiting music.radicalruss.com. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tune.
All right, about time for us to get some electronic dance music going here, and we welcome Electric Bob from the aforementioned state of Arizona. How you doing?
Call in an hour or two, and I have a few rebuttals for you.
Oh, okay.
About Arizona.
Yeah. Tell us all about it, man, because I have to apologize to Arizona, because for years I've been saying Florida's the worst state for pot smokers, but looking at your laws now, I think it's got to be Arizona.
Well, it all depends, really, because for being so illegal here, it doesn't really seem like it.
How so?
Because I can walk, and within 10 minutes walking distance, I can find 4 smoke shops that have bongs, pipes, vaporizers.
Interesting.
And they have, like, they'll have pot stickers all along the walls, and it's obvious what it's used for, but of course it'll say on the counter for tobacco only, but they'll have, like, pot plants on, or not actual plants, but like posters on the wall alluding to what it's supposed to be used for.
Sure. And do you know anybody that gotten busted for holding in Arizona, and what happened to them?
I do, but I'll have to call in on hour 2 because the songs, I don't want to go over the limit on the song.
Right on. Well, tell us all about the song then.
It's Showtek. They're a band. They're a group out of the Netherlands. This is like some hard dance music. It's called hardstyle. It used to be really big in Europe. It's kind of waned off, but it's just them, and it's a song about smoking. It's a hard dance song about smoking.
Well, that's what a Dutchie would be, right?
Yeah, smoking the Dutchie.
All right, well, let's pass it to the left-hand side. This is Showtek featuring MC Stretch.
Roll it,
Dutchie.
taste it, smoke it, now pass the Dutchie. Roll it, taste it, smoke it, now pass the Dutchie. Roll it, taste it, smoke it, now pass the Dutchie. Roll it, taste it, smoke it, now pass the Dutchie. Roll it, taste it, smoke it, now pass the Dutchie. Roll it, taste it, smoke it, now pass the Dutchie. Don't ask me to spell, okay. Roll it, taste it, smoke it, now pass the Dutchie. Roll it, taste it, smoke it, now pass the Dutchie. Roll it, taste it, smoke it, now pass the Dutchie. Roll it, taste it, smoke it, okay. Roll it, taste it, smoke it, now pass the Dutchie. Roll it, taste it, smoke it, now pass the Dutchie. Roll it, taste it, smoke it, now pass the Dutchie. Roll it, taste it, smoke it. Alright, yeah, cool. Roll it, taste it, smoke it, now pass the Dutchie. Roll it, taste it, smoke it, now pass the Dutchie. Roll it, taste it, smoke it, now pass the Dutchie. Roll it, taste it, smoke it, pass the grass. My friend, the Dutchie. Just turn it up, okay. Pass the Dutchie. And breathe in and breathe out. That's what we call the Dutchie. Smoke it, now pass the Dutchie. Roll it, taste it, smoke it, now pass the Dutchie. Now pass the Dutchie. pass the Dutchie. Now pass the Dutchie. Now pass the Dutchie. Just turn it up, okay.
Desde la revista High Times, te invitamos a venir a Ámsterdam desde el 24 al 28 de noviembre al 26 aniversario de nuestro Cannabis Cup, donde demostraremos las muchas variedades de marihuana y hachís en los coffee shops. También tendremos una exposición de productos, seminarios de sembradíos, conciertos en las noches y una ceremonia de premios donde honramos la mejor marihuana del mundo. ¡Vámonos!
I'm Sub Cool from Team Green Avenger. At TGAgenetics.com, we are working on the leading edge of medical strains. Our strains are rigorously tested for THC, CBD, THCV, and other critical cannabinoids. Know your grow. Check out our genetic diversity at TGAgenetics.com, the home of Jelly Bean, Jack the Ripper, Vortex, and other award-winning cannabis strains.
420radio.org presents our live original production of Red Eyes Reggae Flashback with Brian the Red every Wednesday night, live at 8 p.m. Pacific Time, with replays Thursday at 10 a.m., Fridays at 3 a.m., and a 2-hour block every weekend, Saturday and Sunday, starting at midnight. The best deep reggae tracks and roots rhythms with Brian the Red right here on 420radio.org.
Activism begins with ACT. The Russ Belville Show features the stories of hardworking grassroots activists working for an end to prohibition in today's activist agenda.
All right, welcome back, everybody. 32 after the hour, and we've got Greg DeHote on the line via Skype. How you doing, Greg?
Not bad, Russ. How you doing?
Well, I'm doing great. You're getting a whole lot of attention. I was mentioning earlier in the show that there's been 2 recent articles on the UK Cannabis Social Clubs, one in Vice and another one in The Guardian. Tell us about this, how the English people are reacting to this this new phenomenon in the UK.
It seems to be quite a positive response, actually. I think we're just saying what everyone's thinking, really, aren't we? The politicians are too scared to talk up about it, so we're going to talk up about it. The public have been coming out to these events. We've been getting lots more media attention right throughout the summer. We've had some protests all around the country. So this is just sort of just getting into the sort of the national headlines now. It's been a long time coming, but we're getting there. So.
Has there been any law enforcement reaction to this? Because I mean, what you guys are doing isn't technically legal in the UK, right?
No, but again, we can't wait for them to let us do it, because we've been waiting for over 40, 50 years. So the law enforcement's reactions to it for the protests have been, I would say, not too heavy at all. Really? No. They've kind of let us get on and do it. They've come over a couple of the protests and sort of walked through people just to see if there's any dealing going on and whatnot. That's kind of their main concern. I don't think they really want to make a bigger deal out of it than it is. What's wrong with a bunch of people sitting down on the grass talking about and even consuming cannabis? So it is interesting having the conversations with the police back and forwards, just about what's going on globally. A lot of them aren't really aware of it. So when you have these discussions about Hempfest with 400,000 people there over a 3-day weekend, and that there are children like that have been brought there, and they're like the fourth generation of their family that have been involved with the cannabis trade. They start oh really, and listen to you, and you educate them about the medical uses of cannabis, and you've got patients there telling them like firsthand how cannabis has changed their life. So I think the people and the public and the police that we are getting to interact with, we are getting the message across, and so far we're not having any sort of like negative response really. Both of the articles you've seen, I would say, shine us in a positive light, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, they were very positively written. I was especially, kind of surprised seeing it come out of the Guardian, because I know how the British press has generally starts with a negative frame on cannabis and works their way from there.
We've been suffering with the negative frame of cannabis for quite a long time, so it's nice to see them suddenly start to move on. Orson Boone over at the London Cannabis Club, he's been doing a fantastic job at talking to the media. They've got a really, really good receptive and audience at the London Cannabis Club. They've got a lot of members that do come out and meet on a regular basis. They hold lots of different meetups in lots of different styles, and people who are involved with the Cannabis Club, they don't just want to they're not all activists. They're not all out there going legalize. They don't want to come to protest. A lot of them just want to consume cannabis, and
right.
That is everyone's right to be able to do that. So the clubs aren't just activists. They aren't just people that meet up and have smoke ups. There is a club that people like. I was gonna compare it to something then, but I don't think I will. I was gonna say Masons, but it sounds a bit dark, doesn't it?
They're gonna take over the world. But this is
they get together and they go and do regular things. They go and they go out for meals, but they're cannabis consumers. They're at their club. They get together and they do cannabis related or even normal related things, but with their cannabis friends.
Now, how is the reaction from the lawmakers themselves? I mean, here in the States, we got gubernatorial candidates that are starting to talk about, not floating medical plans, but floating legalization plans now. Are there any MPs or anybody in the Home Office there that's changing their mind on the Class B designation or anything like that?
Now, we just had a change of the drugs minister to a guy called Norman Baker, and previously he's said some quite liberal, as you would imagine, things about cannabis and the way that the way we should start regulating it. The drugs policy is wrong. So we're hoping that that's going to be sort of like quite a progressive step for us. Maybe we'll see some slight movement, but it's better to have someone on your side than against you in that position, kind of thing. No one's coming out and saying yes, we're going to make a change, we're going to legalise it. It's been quite the opposite. They're holding firm. No, we're not going to change the drugs policy. We do have a hung parliament. We've got the Liberal Democrats and the Conservatives in a coalition government. Now the Conservative line is cannabis is harmful. We're not going. We don't want to see it legalised. Medical use is fine, but we've got Sativex. So that's really annoying because we don't really have Sativex. The Liberal Democrats, their policy on drugs is to decriminalise, and they would rather see a regulated cannabis through pharmacies than just to have it not, I won't say free for all, but to see it more widely available and per se legalised, so everyone had it, or adults could have it. They prefer it came out of a pharmacy. So we've got those sort of, that's what the government that are in at the moment say, but they can't even agree on it. So what we're going to get from it is I'm not too sure, but I'm all about going in and this is what we want and doing it rather than waiting and trying to convince them that this might be a good idea, because this is happening around Europe. Like this country, there's Spain, Austria, Belgium, France, and even the places in the Netherlands now are starting to get cannabis social clubs together. It's a logical movement, and it's one that's working, and people are latching onto it.
I found here in the United States, the fight went from decrim to medical, and now we're approaching legalization. In South America, when I take a look at it, they didn't ever go to medical, they went right to decrim and toward legalization as an idea of harm reduction and dealing with addiction. What's the flavor of the direction there in Europe? Do you see it going through the medical phase first and then to legalization, or now that the U.S. has broken through with a couple states and Uruguay is going to break through to legalize, could it possibly go just straight to legalization?
Do you know what? I kind of hate to say it, but there's a lot of stuff that went on in California, that is seen and reported about California, that people don't like at all. And they're scared that medical will be seen in I've got writer's block. I need a prescription for weed.
Mm-hmm.
People, that's not how you're going to convince the public. I understand that wasn't, obviously the exact intention. There were some very hardcore facts, like and reasons to get medical marijuana in California in '96. There was the HIV. And AIDS activists were really like strong proponents of it. We've had that kind of activism over here, but not with cannabis. Like during that epidemic, we'd actually had some progress with it, like injecting drug users through the knowledge of how it's spreading HIV. In Europe, what was it you were saying, Russ? Sorry, bring me back onto point.
Just about the direction that Europe would be going, whether they'd bypass medical altogether.
Yeah, see, they want to go for it's all about harm reduction over here.
Yeah,
and we do have like places in Europe with needle exchange programs and safe injection rooms. We're battling to get more of them in the UK at the moment. The Home Office is against the idea of it. They don't really care about the improving people's health and trying to prevent the harm that is caused by the policy, because they just want to oversee that they're right, their morals are right, let them die, pretty much is what the government say. In the rest of Europe, the EU actually said like you need to look at alternative drug policies, like go and experiment. The UK is like completely ignoring that, and we see Europe, and like the more liberal that gets, the more sort of fascist the UK seems to become. I just don't get it. We're getting like more of our rights taken off us, more and more, and I just see it becoming harder for us to actually get a voice with the way our government seem to be going. Like, they're trying to bring a bill in at the moment that would effectively stop anyone gathering and having a peaceful protest. They would let the police come in and have dispersal powers. Even like security guards will have the power of arrest and to disperse people. It's quite a police state kind of bill. It's not really wanted. So if you are listening in the UK, there is a petition on change.org, and you can find it on my Facebook page if you're on there, like cure.uk, and sign that, because we definitely need to get that stopped. We won't be able to do any of the kind of protests that we have been doing over the last year, and we definitely want to be stepping that up. So we don't want them to stop our right to be able to do that.
Yeah. All right. And we had some great guests on a couple of weeks ago from Normal Ireland. Luke Ming Flanagan was among them. He's actually in the parliament there in Ireland. Have you had a chance with Normal UK to work with the people in the new Normal Ireland, and how's that looking?
Yes, Kevin came over to the first Normal UK conference in May, so that was very good to meet him and discuss ideas what were going on. They've been doing very well over there. They introduced a bill that was rejected, but it was the first time something like that's happened. And to have a person like Ming Flanagan on board is absolutely brilliant, because he is an elected official who's is the equivalent of an MP over here. So imagine we had an MP that was on the board of Normal UK and that was proposing bills, private members' bills in the houses. So there's a lot of things to aspire to, and I hope we can even get that level in the UK. It looks like they're pushing forward as well. I haven't had any more updates since that happened. Really, it's all happened quite recently, hasn't it?
Yeah. It's amazing news, and we applaud what you guys are doing there across the pond, and want to encourage any of our European listeners to get in touch with Greg out there with the Cannabis Social Clubs and Normal UK. Why don't you give them the contact information?
Yeah. So if you visit www.normal-uk.org. That's normal without an A. And for normal, and if you want to get hold of the UK CSCs, that's www.ukcsc.co.uk. We've got a full club list on there. We've got lots of articles about what's going on in the UK. So if you do want to get involved, just find your local page and shoot them a message, or shoot us a message, and we'll get on with that.
That sounds great. Greg DeHote, Cannabis Cure UK, all over the net. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you again.
No worries. Thanks, Russ. Have a good show.
When we come back, we'll have time for a radical rant going off on the op-ed in the Seattle Times from Americans for Safe Access. Here we go again. We'll be right back.
The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
Marijuana and alcohol are the two most popular recreational drugs in America. Marijuana smoking is non-toxic, relatively safe, and has a low risk of dependence. Alcohol drinking is potentially fatal, dangerous to society, and is quite addictive. Marijuana is safer, so why are we driving people to drink? That's the question of the new book, Marijuana is Safer, So Why Are We Driving People to Drink? By Paul Armentano, Mason Tvert, and Steve Fox. Visit Amazon.com or ChelseaGreen.com today to order your copy of Marijuana is Safer, or visit...
Hey, Lindsay? I wish you didn't smoke weed.
Holy crap, the weed's so good, my dog's talking to me.
You're not the same when you smoke.
Did Will see this talking dog?
I'll be outside.
Man, I gotta stop with the sativas. I'm seeing talking dogs now.
Ever wonder how often to change your bong water? The most effective method for baking pot brownies? The best destinations for a ganja getaway? How to hide herb in your car? Whether to grow your own? How precisely to legalize it? Or how something as wonderful as marijuana ever got to be illegal in the first place? Finally, you can find all these answers and much more in the official High Times Pot Smoker's Handbook, featuring 420 things to do when you're stoned. Since 1974, High Times magazine has covered marijuana in all its aspects and wonders, from cultivation to legalization to the herb's enduring and exalted place in popular culture. Packed with inside information, the official High Times Pot Smoker's Handbook wove all of this collected wisdom together into a single indispensable ganja guide, including an entertaining look at marijuana's history, profiles of herb-friendly travel destinations and festivals, favorite potluck recipes from the High Times staff, smoking skills, advocacy and activism, essential marijuana movies and songs, profiles of famous cannabis strains, comprehensive growing information, celebrity endorsements, and much more. This is truly, finally, the ultimate guide to green living.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel?
The Russ Belville Show reminds you to never smoke and drive impaired. Hang out for a while. Share.
You want answers?
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended a Shaolin temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious. I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical rant.
Well, today I'm going to dive headfirst into the controversy going on up in Washington State. As you know, I-502 passed and legalized recreational marijuana, but now the Washington State Liquor Control Board has recommended doing away with home grow, reducing patient limits, creating a patient registry, and moving most patients into the recreational system. This has prompted Steph Shearer, the executive director of Americans for Safe Access, the nation's leading medical marijuana only group, to write an op-ed entitled, "Don't Treat Medical Marijuana Patients Like Recreational Users." Before I get too deep into this, let me start with a disclaimer in that I support medical marijuana. I've supported and voted for every single medical marijuana bill that has ever come across. I have campaigned for it. I know the science behind it. I have interviewed hundreds, if not thousands, of people who have gained medical benefit from the use of cannabis. So it's not to deny or disparage any of that. However, I do want to talk a little bit about the framing and the rhetoric that we use regarding the defense of medical marijuana, if you will, and how some of these tactics that worked well in the late 90s are wearing thin in the 2010s. So with that in mind, let me get to some of the quotes here from Steph, who, by the way, I respect the hell out of Steph Shearer. She's done amazing work, but still, I got to address some of this stuff. She writes, some in Washington have suggested that patients who enjoy the protections of the current program don't really need it, that they can get their needs met within a recreational retail model. Okay. Now, this is a little bit of distortion. Some in Washington have suggested that patients who enjoy the protections of the current program don't need it. No, I think people are suggesting that some of the people who are enjoying those current protections could get by just fine with the I-502. Some of them. Not all patients, but again, we'll address that in a second. She continues, but that ignores the challenges facing those with the most serious medical conditions, denies what works in the state's medical cannabis program, and overlooks the strengths of previous legislation. Well, the challenges facing those with the most serious medical conditions right there sets us in the point that I'm trying to make, is that not every single patient in Washington state has the challenges for those with the most serious medical conditions. Yes, there are the medical marijuana patients who have Crohn's disease or epilepsy or intractable pain or incurable nausea or cancer or AIDS, whatever it might be. Not denying that at all. But it is a non-zero number of some of these patients who don't have those. Some of these patients that are skating by. Some of these patients who got a recommendation to treat their arrest anxiety syndrome and are merely enjoying the medical marijuana protections to protect what the rest of us are doing with marijuana, and that's just getting high. Yes, I know there is the desperately ill cancer patient, just as well as I have seen with my own two eyes at HempFest a stream of 20-something young men walking into a tent to get a recommendation from a naturopath for $40, strapping on the gas mask bong before they go out to headbang to the Cottonmouth Kings. And I think what some people are suggesting is maybe those guys ought to be on the recreational program, on the I-502 program. Maybe those guys ought to be paying some taxes. I think that's what people are saying. Now, Steph does a very good job here of pointing out that there was a chance of putting together regulations for dispensaries and to better have tighter regulations for medical marijuana in Washington state. This was that Senate Bill 5073 back in 2011 that had a lot of the controls in it that the Department of Justice wants, right? That, don't have diversion, have it well regulated and so on. Those, of course, got line item vetoed by Gregoire when she was afraid because the U.S. attorneys made the threats that they were going to come bust all these people and so forth. Yes, those facts are incontrovertible. But it's also incontrovertible that a lot of people in the medical marijuana industry up there in Washington state fought tooth and nail against SB 5073 and fought all attempts previous to that to have any sort of regulation in the system. You get to the point where you got people that go to such hyperbolic lengths as to claim that having a medical marijuana registry would be like having a sex offender registry. Yeah, they're exactly the same, because one would be patients registering on a private database with the state in order to be protected from arrest, and the other would be perverts on a public database that can be searched by anybody for harassment and scorn. But other than that, they're exactly the same. Seems to have worked in 16 other states, but God forbid we institute that in Washington and protect patients from actual arrest. And maybe, just maybe, if there were a registry and some effort by the medical marijuana community to more strictly regulate the access to this medical marijuana, so it was indeed just the sickest and most disabled patients, they wouldn't be in the rhetorical corner they've painted themselves in now, having to fight off the advances of recreational marijuana. Now, Steph does go forth to say the Washington State Liquor Control Board is finalizing its recommendations for the legislature. A sensible bill will establish a tightly regulated system of separate local distribution so patients can get the types of cannabis that work for their specific conditions and freely exchange information about therapeutic use. The state should protect personal cultivation that enables access for the most needy. Right. I think everyone's in agreement there that the medical program that exists in Washington State should protect the most needy. The problem I've got is this continued presupposition in this argument that every patient meets the greatest outlier of medical marijuana. In the quote that really got me, she says, lawmakers will have to see past misinformation. She basically says that, they should just dust off Senate Bill 5073, put it back to the legislature and get that passed. And that's a great idea. And I think it would be a smart idea to negotiate for, say, hey, let's have a moratorium on closing any of the existing dispensaries until we can get that 5073 through and signed, right? Let's maybe negotiate for something like that. Oh, imagine negotiating. But anyway, the quote here is, the panel will have to see past the misinformation that always circulates around this issue. That misinformation includes claims that 95% of patients don't really have treatable medical conditions, despite their doctor's determination otherwise. Well, again, we're getting into some Weasley word territory. We're not saying that patients don't have treatable medical conditions. My anxiety is a treatable medical condition. My hangnail is a treatable medical condition. My backache's a treatable medical condition. The question is how many of them are the really seriously ill patients that are the ones that without 15 plants and 24 ounces, they will die? And I'm sorry, it's not 95% of them. It's not 80% of them. It's not 20% of them. I know this. You cannot fool me. I have worked in these medical marijuana clinics. I've been behind the scenes. I've worked with the patient advocacy organizations as we got people their medical marijuana cards. And frankly, this move to rush the sickest and most disabled person to the front of the line and claim that is representative of every single medical marijuana patient is wearing a little thin. Steph goes on, ask the patients who've done better because they've had cannabis to bolster their battles with cancer, AIDS, or chronic pain. Right, we don't disagree on that. Cancer, AIDS, chronic pain, neuropathic pain, epilepsy, Crohn's disease, etc., etc., etc. Yes, absolutely. But to pretend that is 100% of the medical marijuana patients in Washington State is disingenuous. We've been to the same events. We've seen the same backstages. We know this. Now, not just my opinion on this, because I want the patients, the really sick patients, to have these protections. And my fear here is this continued reliance on this hyperbolic rhetoric that presupposes that everybody is the worst case patient, causes the people we're negotiating with and the people we're trying to convince to call bullshit in their minds. And then we risk losing all these possible protections for every patient. This might be the time to recognize which battles you can win and which battles you should be fighting. And in this case, I think the cancer patient, the AIDS patient, the people who actually really do need 15 plants and 24 ounces, you ought to start figuring some way to protect them by realizing that some of these other people would be fine with 3 ounces, would be fine if they didn't have home grow. It would be inconvenient. It would cost them more money. Yes, that would suck. But are you going to fight for their right to have the 24 ounces and lose the 24 ounces for everybody and the cancer patients too? Seems to me that we're still fighting this medical marijuana battle if it's 1996 here, and that we're having to convince people that marijuana is okay. And they've just legalized it in Washington State. We don't have to make that fight anymore. To confirm, there was a poll that came out, CBS News. This was, I believe, a couple years ago. It had 77% support nationwide for medical cannabis. Do you think doctors should be allowed to prescribe medical marijuana? And this is 77% support. But in that same poll, only 31% of the country believes marijuana that is purchased in this country through state-authorized medical marijuana programs is being used to alleviate suffering from serious medical illnesses. End quote. Majorities of Republicans and independents and a plurality of Democrats believe, quote, most of it is being used for other reasons, end quote. So make a good faith effort, patients. Negotiate for the most sick of you to continue with the protections you've got. Realize that a lot of you could do with lesser amounts, and that some of you are really just recreational patients like me, recreational users like me, who are trying to fig leaf your shame over getting high with some sort of all uses medical bullshit.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
That's all the time we got for today. You can call in live in hour 2 here if you want to give me a piece of your mind. The phone number is 971-533-7111. I'm Radical Russ. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.